Have you ever wondered how the ancient texts of the Bible align or conflict with our modern values and perspectives? As we navigate through the complexities of our rapidly evolving world, the interplay between sacred texts and contemporary norms often sparks fascinating and, at times, controversial discussions. Today we dare to venture into this intricate web of thoughts, exploring controversial biblical themes in the light of modern values. Stay on Heart and Prayers until the end. We will delve deeper into the role of women, examining the contrast between biblical passages and today's push for gender equality. We will address sexual morality, examining how traditional teachings compare with evolving attitudes. We will investigate religious tolerance, questioning the balance between biblical exclusivity in our diverse, interconnected world. We will examine evangelism and mission, and the tension between spreading the faith and respecting diversity. We will analyze literal versus symbolic interpretations of the Bible, and finally, we will explore ethics and social justice, evaluating the Bible's moral compass against contemporary social issues. Join us as we delve into the first theme, the role of women. The role of women in the Bible has sparked much debate in contemporary society. From a biblical perspective, some New Testament passages can be interpreted as restrictive of women's roles in religious practices and church leadership. This interpretation, however, has been questioned in our modern society, fueling debates about gender equality within religious institutions. The question of women's ordination is one of the most discussed topics. Many argue that biblical interpretation should evolve alongside social norms, thus opening spaces for women in religious hierarchies. Others, however, hold fast to the traditional interpretation, believing it to be an unalterable truth. These debates highlight the dynamic nature of religious interpretation, demonstrating how our understanding of religious texts is influenced by our contemporary context. As we continue to grapple with these complex questions, it is crucial to foster an environment that fosters open dialogue. We progress into our next theme by considering the implications of sexual morality. Sexual morality in the Bible often conflicts with modern attitudes. The Old and New Testaments provide a framework for sexual morality that, at times, may seem at odds with contemporary perspectives. Prominent themes include the sanctity of marriage, the sinfulness of adultery, and prohibitions against sexual immorality. However, interpretations of what exactly constitutes immorality can vary widely. In today's society, attitudes towards sexuality have undergone a significant evolution. Discussions around homosexuality, divorce, and sexual freedom reflect a more open and accepting perspective that may seem at odds with biblical teachings. However, it is important to remember that interpretation is the key. Some argue that the Bible's teachings on sexual morality are not as rigid as they appear and that context and cultural understanding at the time of writing must be taken into account. So, as we grapple with the complexities of sexual morality from a biblical perspective, we must also consider the dynamism of contemporary views. Next, we will address the delicate topic of religious tolerance. Religious tolerance has become a focal point in our diverse and interconnected world. The Bible, in its time, was written within the context of a largely homogeneous religious culture, with some passages interpreted as promoting religious exclusivity. This raises questions about their relevance in today's pluralistic societies, where we live with multiple faiths and philosophies on a daily basis. As we venture further into the 21st century, we are faced with the need for a more inclusive and respectful approach to diverse spiritual traditions. This doesn't necessarily mean diluting your faith, but rather learning to enhance the spiritual paths of others. These are not easy waters to navigate. The challenge lies in reconciling deeply held beliefs with the imperative of peaceful coexistence. It's a delicate dance, a journey of understanding. It's the will to find common ground amidst our differences. As we continue this discussion, it is important to remember that religious tolerance is not just about coexistence, but also about mutual respect and understanding. Now, let's examine the topic of evangelization and mission. The call for evangelism in the Bible may raise concerns about religious coercion. The Bible, especially the New Testament, urges Christians to actively spread their faith. This is a key element of Christian mission, with passages such as the Great Commission in the Gospel of Matthew urging believers to go and make disciples of all nations. However, in our world, contemporary, the idea of evangelization can be complex. We live in a global society that values religious freedom and diversity, and the act of spreading one's faith must be balanced with respect for these values. This means understanding that evangelism should not equate to imposing one's beliefs on others, but rather sharing them in a way that respects individual autonomy and choice. So how do we navigate this difficult terrain? The task is to find a way to share faith that respects the freedom and diversity of our interconnected world. As we near the conclusion, let's discuss the controversial topic of the literal interpretation in relation to the symbolic interpretation. The texts of the Bible can be interpreted literally or symbolically, leading to various perspectives. This duality of interpretation opens up a world of complexity. In the biblical context, stories such as the creation of the universe and the end times have been read as both literal events and symbolic narratives. On the one hand, a literal interpretation offers a direct understanding of the texts, appearing to leave little room for ambiguity. On the other hand, a symbolic interpretation can provide deeper and more nuanced insights, revealing layers of meaning that resonate with our human experiences. In the contemporary context, we are faced with the challenge of balancing faith with a critical and interpretive approach. This task is further complicated in an era where science and rationality are highly valued. How do we reconcile ancient texts with modern knowledge? How do we filter through layers of symbolism to find truths that are relevant to us today? Finally, we delve into the topic of ethics and social justice. The Bible promotes ethical values, but their interpretation may vary depending on contemporary social issues. From Old Testament commandments to New Testament teachings of love and charity, the Bible is full of ethical guidelines. However, the interpretation and application of these principles can vary greatly, especially when dealing with contemporary issues such as social justice, economic equity, and the environment. For example, biblical teachings about caring for the poor and oppressed have been used to advocate for economic justice and civil rights. However, there are differing opinions on how these principles should be applied in complex modern contexts. Similarly, stewardship of the earth, a theme found in the book of Genesis, has been invoked in discussions of environmental sustainability. There is constant debate about how to apply these ethical principles of the Bible to our contemporary world. As we navigate these discussions, we must remember to approach them with empathy, respect, and willingness to listen and learn. In reaching the conclusion, it becomes evident how complex it is to interpret the Bible in today's ever-changing society. The challenges we encounter in trying to apply ancient ethical principles to contemporary issues require deep reflection and open dialogue. Navigating between tradition and modernity, between fundamental values and new perspectives, requires a constant commitment to mutual understanding in building a world that reflects the diversity of our experiences. On this journey, empathy, respect, and the willingness to listen are fundamental to face the challenges of our era with wisdom and compassion. What do you think about it?